Hi guys! In this tutorial I will show you what's new we have in Angular 5. And before going very deep in details about Angular 5, I would like to give you an idea what kind of awesome apps you can create with Angular and especially Angular 5. We created content management system using Angular 5 and using Google Firebase, and we built application like a blog about some news, about technical news of JavaScript, and all these posts are coming from our Google Firebase. And in Google Firebase we have database, Cloud Firestore, and we have all collections here, menus, posts, and users. And here I have my user. So I'm authorized in application to be able to edit all content and to manage posts, manage menus, and so on. And we have different sections and we have admin page for all of this. So we can go to admin, dashboard, and we can go to menus or posts and edit them, and we will have all this again on our application. And I'm authorized by my Google account, and in Firebase I have a role admin true. So we have application and we have everything ready here. And let's talk about Angular. So basically what's that? Angular is complete framework. It means it covers all the steps and all the life cycle of your application. It's also cross-platform. It's providing speed, performance, and a lot of tools to create it very useful and very quickly. And basically it's a single page application. What it mean? It means that, for example, if I go to dogs or go to resources, you can see application is not refreshing. Everything is working in one single page. And just routing is working and your application is reflecting on every event. Everything is working here, and this is a single page application. And let's go to features and see what we have here. So first of all, we will be able to create progressive web applications. It means we will be able to create web platforms which will work like an application and will have high performance offline and zero step of installation. Next is native. So we will be able to create native mobile applications, and we will be able also to create desktop applications from our web application. And this application will be able to install on Mac, Windows or Linux. Next most important part is speed and performance. So code generation and Angular will turn our templates in a code which is optimized for virtual machines. Universal, so our first view of application will be able to serve on Node.js, .NET or PHP on other servers. Code splitting, this is the most important part, I think. So Angular splitting application in components and routers, and we are rendering and showing to the user only the part which we need to show. Next is productivity. So templates, we are very quickly creating UI of all the parts we need. Angular CLI, very useful tool. It's a command line tool to build and start deploying and start creating components and so on. Next is IDS. So get intelligent code completion. And full development story, starting from testing using Karma, animation and accessibility. And basically that's why Angular loved by millions. Okay, And on this example, I will show you all new features which we have in Angular 5. And before this, let's just talk about Angular and AngularJS. What's the difference? So before Angular 2.0, we were using AngularJS, which is Angular 1 and all the versions of 1. And it's using AngularJS, and we have material design for AngularJS 1 with again JavaScript, and only after 2.0 we have Angular. So this is a GitHub of Angular and we have everything here. So if you would like to understand about versions and about what's changed, you can go here and look for repositories, look for logs and so on. So from Angular 2.0 we have Angular, which support TypeScript, and again we have Material Design 2, which support again TypeScript. And we have Angular CLI, which is command line interface tool to work with Angular. I will show you some features of Angular CLI and basically about Angular versions. So in Angular from 2.0 till 5, almost nothing changed in structure. So it's again Angular, just the new features, new functionality, performance optimization and so on. But the structure is the same. And difference from AngularJS to Angular is a lot. So it's completely other framework. And basically, if you know Angular 2 or Angular 4, it's not very hard to learn about Angular 5. There is some new features. I will show you all these features and I'm sure you will like them. So let's go to our example. And here I will create a list of features and we will go point by point and I will show you all the details. So let's go to homepage component, and in HTML we can create a list. And I'm using Visual Studio Code and it's very comfortable to work with Angular. And I would show you some very useful feature now. So I would like to create a div with class which I already created, center UL, and inside we will have UL, inside we will have LE 7 times, and inside we will have H3. And press enter and all the structure is completely created immediately. Very useful feature. And now we can list features which are new in Angular 5. Let's put here a header for this and it will be H2 what's new in Angular 5. And first new point and most important point is progressive web applications. It's called also PWA. Next, again very important point is build AOT, which means ahead of time compilation. And this is most important part where we have a lot of optimization in performance. Next, there is a forms validations behavior which have new options in Angular 5. Next, we have new features in internationalization. So there is internationalized numbers, dates, and currency pipes. Okay. Next, we have also a new HTTP client. I will show you about this. Also, we have router additional events, and we have multiple export alias, And let's copy this. We have two more features. There is improved animations in Angular 5, and I think that's all. So let's save this part and go to our application. Okay, we have all these points, and let's go point by point, and I will show you all the details. Let's do our commit so our code will be clean, and we can go to Git and right here add content to homepage and commit it, yes, and our code now is clean without any changes. Okay, so let's talk first of all about progressive web applications. And to do so, we can go to Angular IO, and in Angular IO we have all documentation here, and go to tutorials or go to some fundamental parts and techniques and see everything what we need. So for progressive web applications, the main technique is a service worker. So for this we can go to documentation and read everything here, and the main functionality of service worker is to make application offline working, and it's using manifest to cache everything on a browser, and you don't need to go and serve everything one more time from a web. So the best way to get started with Service Worker is to use Service Worker with two dashes during creating of application. But I'm sure a lot of guys are creating just a project, going and coming to some place where they need a Service Worker. So even here we have everything described when we want to add Service Worker to an existing application. So to do this we need to add Service Worker package, and before adding all this I would like to show you about performance of application. So we can go to DevTools and we have here audit, and we can go to run audit, and it will audit our web page and show loading page, and it will show us all the negative points of web page loading. Okay, and we can see that there is does not register a service worker, does not respond with 200 when offline, and a lot of other things. And we can see final audition and grade. So performance is even 0 now. And we have a lot of things to improve, but we will focus on a service worker now. And other points are 100 accessibility and some best practice. Okay, so let's think about how much is progressive it as web application, and performance also will be increased. So let's go back and add a service worker, and we can go to integrated terminal and type here npm install and put Angular Service Worker and with save option. We have it installed now, and next what we are going to do, we need to do ng set service worker true. Good. So after this we have service worker true in our Angular CLI JSON. And next what we need to do, we need to import and register service worker. To do so we need to go to our app module. We can close terminal, we don't need it now. Also, as we have imported our environment here, we can do import service worker and enable it only when our environment in production mode. This is very important because during development it's not very convenient to have service worker, so your changes will be every time going in cache and you need to refresh it and so on. So we will use service worker only for our production mode. Next, we need to go create configuration file and we need to have it in our src directory. So we can do here new file and have this configuration file, and we can just take this part where defined everything to cache index and cache files and cache bundle chunks and how to load modules with lazy and files and assets and so on. So let's just copy it here, save this part, and let's see what else we have here. We need to do build with production mode. About building with production mode, I will show you also more details during second point of what we have new in Angular 5. But now just let's build it. So we can go to, again, integrated terminal and do build. And during build we will see maybe a lot of notifications because it's not very detailed check on serve, and to see more issues we should do build with production. So for example, now it's find some error in page list component where we don't have a title defined. So we can go to page list component, which is in a front page in page list and in HTML. So we have here title and we don't have it defined, so it's giving an error. And we can do one more time a build and hopefully it find only one error, but usually there is a lot of errors because sometimes you are not considering some details, and there is also some notifications. For example, this part will become an error in Angular 6, which we almost have already. And this dist contain our application. And we can go just to this directory and do HTTP server to see our application on 8080. Going to dist and doing, and we don't have HTTP server. And to have it we need to do npm install globally HTTP server. Good, we have it now, and we can do HTTP serve -p and we can go to this path and see our application. Good. Let's go now to audit section and perform audition one more time. And for sure it will give us error because we don't have implemented htaccess. So even when we go to our application, it's routing us to home. But if we go here and do refresh, we will not get our application. So to do this, let's go to our application, and inside src we need to create new file, and it will be htaccess. And we need to have something like this. I just take it from internet, so if mode rewrite is enabled, everything, files and all are going to index.html. And we need to go to Angular CLI configuration file, and if we want to have this htaccess in our distributive directory, we need to edit here as we have added favicon. So here we will have htaccess, and we need to do build one more time. So let's go back and do ng build with production. I will skip this part for you, so you already will see result of build. Cool. And let's do, let's go to dist and after server. Okay. And we will get the same error as we are running HTTP server and it's not using our htaccess because htaccess basically for Apache, but we also need it. Maybe we will install our application on Apache. So for having a rewrite on our application which is served by npm by node, we can do something like this: npm install globally local web server. Good. And now we can do vs and do spa index html. Good. And we can go to our URL and put here this one. And it will work with rewriting. Also, I found that for applications where we use Angular 5-based tool model, we need to do a little bit more. We need to go to main.ts, and here where we have platform form browser dynamic, we need to do a little bit more extended version. So I just copy paste it here, and we need to have here then if Serviceworker in navigator, we need to call register worker. So let's save this part also and go to terminal and build it one more time. Build it, go to dist and do the same vs spa index html. Go to our page, and now we can perform an audit one more time. Okay, we improved progressive web app performance, so our application now using Serviceworker. We have here some issues because we have some files which are not served and not configured in our JSON. So for your application you can go to configuration and add all files which is required, and Serviceworker will work for them also. And now we even can go to network and put offline this website, and again we have some resources which are not defined but other all coming from Serviceworker. So our application is accessible even without having an internet. Good. And now let's commit all this and pass to next point. So we don't need a terminal anymore. We have all these files and we have all these changes. Save it. Okay. And let's do a commit. So we have changed Angular, CLI JSON, package JSON, we have some installation. We added htaccess to have routing working on Apache servers. We have in main.ts some configuration for Angular applications which are using Angular Fire-based tool module, and we have config for our Serviceworker, and we have added him here and do some corrections in pages list during build. So add Serviceworker. Good. Yes. Okay, now let's pass to next point which we have. So going to our served version, and we pass it this part built with ahead of time compilation. So when we are doing ng build with production, we are building it with AOT. We even can do something like this in terminal. We can do ng serve and give AOT, and it will be served with ahead of time compilation. But better just to build and use it only for production. And basically how we have this part. This part is most important of Angular 5 because it was about performance, and Angular 5 is much faster than Angular 4. And this is because we have new functionality in our Angular CLI, and now Angular CLI apply build optimizer by default. The build optimizer removes Angular decorators from your app's runtime's code, reduce the size of your bundle, and increase the boot speed of your application. In addition, the build optimizer removes part of your application that is not loaded during runtime via tree shaking. And next point is about forms validation behavior. So let's go to admin part, and for this we need to log in. I've logged in using my Google account, so Samuel Ivazian already logged in, and now I can go to admin dashboard. And here we have posts. So this is a list of our posts which we are adding, and these posts are stored in our Firebase. So we have Firebase database here, and we have storage, and we have database, so Cloud Firestore. And here we have our menus, we have posts, and we have our users. And my user already registered here, and I set him as admin true. So I'm authorized to use this application as administrator. And here we have forms which I would like to show you. So this form have validation, and when I'm typing, it's validation put to be required. So when I'm typing, it automatically validating it. But in Angular 5 we have new behavior, so we can put validation, for example, only on blur, on lost focus. To do this, we can go to our admin part, go to posts, and go to posts component TS. We can close the terminal, and here we have validation of our form. Here it is, menu validator required, menu ID required, and content required. And here we can extend it and put something like this. Add update on blur, and validators will be required. And also you can put here submit, so validation will be only on submit. Okay, let's save this and go to our page title. And when we're typing, it's not validating until we are blurring. We are going focus out from it. Cool. And even if you don't use reactive forms, which I strongly recommend to use, you also can do it from HTML part. If you are doing it instead of form control name, you are putting ng model. You can do here a new option, ng model options equal to update on blur, But as we are using reactive forms, we don't need to have this part. Good. And in our tutorial about creating CMS, you will be able to see all the detailed description how we are creating all this. How we are handling authorization, authentication, how we reading and writing in our database, and so on. Okay, and now let's go back, and form validation behavior is done. Let's talk now about pipes. So let's go to again docs of Angular IO, and here we have internationalization and everything described here. So just to edit, we need to have local ID from core and providers define it and use some localization. And we have a list of all localizations, and it will help us to integrate some translations on our application. And also we will have data pipe, currency pipe, decimal pipe, percentage pipe, and all of them are different for different languages. By default in Angular only contain local date for EE and US. And we even can serve with defining local and putting some other value. And to have everything defined, we need to go over all of this and implement what we require to have. And also we have about pipes in API. We can go in currency pipe here, and we need to import currency pipe from Angular command. And after we will be able to do a pipe like this. So let's try just this part, and we can go to front page and go to front page HTML. We have route which are going to home page HTML, and here we can just do a P and for example a pipe and put currency. So as default is yen US, we'll see dollar, and we can define here, for example, CAD, Canadian dollars, and go to here, define A equal to, for example, 0,259, and we need to go to our model, and we can go to homepage component TS and also add currency pipe here, and go to our page, and here we have a Canadian. Don't need this part in our application, I was just showing you. And also I would like to show you about date pipes. So go to here and date pipe. Good. For this we need to import date pipe again from command, and we have a lot of options for date. And for example, if we will put FR, we will get the full date in French. So this is great feature which will help us to translate our application. And everything is very simple, just use pipe and use all these modules which we need, and you will get everything required. So let's go forward, and we have HTTP client, which is a little bit different in Angular 5. So if we go to HTTP, we will see HTTP client module. And before Angular 5, there was HTTP from Angular HTTP. And here in HTTP client, we have a little bit more ability. We can put parameters. Also, as we are using Angular 5.2 in our application, it's already updated to be able to work with Angular 5. So here we have already Angular 5.2 version 5, and there is a lot of changes there, and there is a guide how to switch to version 5. And for this application we don't need to go deep and look how HTTP is working. But for applications where we have HTTP, we need to switch to HTTP client, and there will be a lot of performance optimizations and a lot of flexibility. And you will be able also to define params when you are doing a HTTP request. So let's go forward, and we have router additional events. And again, let's go to documentation, and in routing we have new conditions and new models which will help us to identify more about life cycle of routing. And here we should have about, for example, resolve start, and it is in API, and resolve start is a new in Angular 5, and the same we have resolver and activation and child activation start and so on. So for example, we can use this resolver start to identify when we need to show some loading. So when resolve start, we can do some functionality, and we can also go to route event, and in route events we have all these: guard check end, guard check start, navigation cancel and start, and so on. So all these events of routing are new in Angular 5. And we can go to each one and investigate it and use it wherever we need. Let's go forward, and we have multiple export areas. And this is about exporting component. And we can go to our application, and here, for example, for home page we can put something like this: export S. And here we can put home new from start, for example. And this feature can help us to do migrations without breaking any changes. So for example, we created some component and we need to replace it with some other, and we just can export as other name and replace it, and other components will not be confused with this. But basically in this application we are not using it, so we don't need to export it with some other names. But it's very useful feature. Let's go forward. We have improved animations in Angular 5. So we already have animations from Angular 4, and just we can go to fundamentals, or it should be somewhere here. And let's search for animations. And here is a guide about animations. So we need to have browser animation module, which we already use as we are using material design in our application. And here is defined everything. So we can import trigger, state, style, animate and transition from animations, and we will be able to set up some triggers when it should state change and on activate or inactive, and do some transitions and so on. And basically we have all this from Angular 4. And what's new in Angular 5? There is new two transitions, and if we go to some transition, active, inactive and scale, yes, but we also have new transitions which call it increment and decrement. And other all things are the same with animations. In this tutorial, the most important part is changes in Angular 5 and changes how to work with Firebase and material design. So all this UI layout and functionality menus, the usability is coming from material. And to be able to work with new material design, we need to upgrade to Angular 5. And to work with Google Firebase, we need to be able to use new techniques. For example, in services, there are a lot of changes which we need to know to work with Angular Firebase Component 2. You can also follow our other tutorials in which I show how I was building this application. And you will learn all new things which we were using in Angular 5. And also, one day ago, Angular 6 was released. So follow our tutorials and soon we will show you what is new in Angular 6. Have a nice day and see you soon. Bye.